Hello and welcome, and I'm really pleased we have Chris Murray, CEO of YPFT. Chris, welcome and tell us more about YFPT.
No problem. Thanks for the opportunity to have a chat with you this afternoon. The Young People's Foundation Trust, LYPTF, is here to support the infrastructure development of youth provision across England. And as the national CEO, my job is to support the 50 different Young People's Foundations across the country and the 10 local youth partnerships, making a total of 60 organizations provide infrastructure support, training, and development for local organizations to do that direct delivery on the ground in a place and for its community.
So, what makes the local youth transformation program different from previous national youth service initiatives?
Yeah, it's an interesting time in the development of youth services across the country, and youth work plays an element of that, but youth service is quite broad in terms of the provision for children and especially for young people as they uh, transition from primary into secondary school and start to go through what we know as adolescence, and start to think about their place in the world as they become teenagers into adults post 18. And that transitional period is where this transformational pilot will focus its attention. And for the past 15 years, certainly since 2005, 2007, we haven't really had the injection of support for youth services nationally. And then we had austerity in 2008, and then there was a tapering off of services in local authority, and they were decommissioned. So if we think about that context of where we are now, this is a fantastic opportunity to consider what that looks like going forward. And before central government, through Department for Culture, Sport and Media, promotes that, they want to test what's out there. And that's why it's exciting. We're thinking about services that are in the community, for the community, with that umbrella of the local authorities providing the support and the resource for that to happen. And what this pilot will do is give us a different approach, a more appreciative inquiry approach to how we provide services for adolescents, for young people, for teenagers, if we use that language. And that could be anything from providing activities, providing opportunities for integration, community cohesion. It could be about employment. It could be about the infrastructure of a community, what makes that community tick. So there's a multitude of ways in which this opportunity will begin to delve into how young people grow up, in what context, what's their local environment, what's their political environment. And fundamentally, we want them to be functioning adults, being part of society as they get older because they've had such a strong underpinning as teenagers that they're ready to move to the next phase in their lives and in their development. So the transformation is a pilot. It is looking at those touch points in a young person's life through the lens of youth work, informal education, and obviously through the lens of young people becoming more intrinsically linked to the discussions that's been held for them, but fundamentally through them in terms of co-creating opportunities for their development.
Okay. So the LYTP is focused on 12 pilot areas.
Mm.
How were these locations chosen, and what unique challenges do they face in supporting young people?
Yeah, so the model was chosen by the Department for Culture, Media and Sport for DCMS. And they went through quite a rigorous process of talking to quite a few local authorities about what difference this would make to their local community.
Mhm.
And part of the challenge was looking at some of the rural areas, some of the challenges in the coastal areas, and some of the areas that are linked to communities in more city-based environments. And when you look at the fabric across England, every region has been selected, at least one from each region, whether that's in the northeast, northwest, in the Midlands, and so on, right down into two in London. And they're all different. They all have a different fabric, all have a different DNA, different community makeup. But what will come out of it is what's the learning for children and young people in that environment over the next period of time, whether that's the next 3 years, 5 years, or so on. And this pilot will begin to test some of that theory that local authorities have been crying out for, what young people have told us they need in a community space, and what those providers who are providing those youth services are also saying. So if you can triangulate that, then you think, right, the 12 that were chosen represent the strongest breadth across England. And hopefully the findings over the next 12 months or so will give us an indication of whether or not these local authorities can replicate other models in other areas, very similar to their own.
Excellent. So YPFT is working alongside some big national organizations like the UK Youth and Street Games. How do you see each partner contributing to the overall success of the program?
I think one of the challenges of being in the youth sector
Mhm.
is that we haven't always worked well together, considering we don't play well. I think what this will do is encourage us to think differently about the communities that we're trying to serve.
Mhm.
And we've all got a certain uniqueness in terms of the skill set that we bring. And the NYA has been able to bring us all together to think about what it is that we bring and how can we dovetail with other partners in this. And so far, so good. It's worked really well. The NYA, the National Youth Agency, is the overarching lead
Mhm.
for this piece of work. And they are shaping the discussions. UK Youth is the major infrastructure provider in the UK, and they're help providing that infrastructure support for all of us.
Mhm.
Um, and then obviously with street games being embedded in communities, providing those direct delivery opportunities and training means that those three bits are catered for. Now, the bit that the Young People's Foundation Trust is pretty good at is our relationship in a place with our members and with the local authorities in those spaces. Our job is to pull those different partners around the table to have the discussion about strategy, about good governance, about good financial acumen to deliver those services. Because our remit isn't delivery, our remit is supporting those that do deliver.
Yeah.
So the conversation we're bringing is having a broader appreciative inquiry to the question. We have no answers, but we have lots and lots and lots of questions.
Mhm.
And through that discovery, we're able to work out what actually each local authority area might need. We're not involved in all 12, we're involved in 7 of the initial 12. And we are trying our very best to kind of reach under the skin of that and what do communities want? What's their DNA and how do they support their children and young people to thrive? And we seem to be getting quite a lot of traction in our approach to do that.
You mentioned that young assessors will be involved in the review process. How important is it to have young people directly shaping the services they use?
Well, we can't do something for people if they're not involved in the process. I think it's extremely difficult for me to sit here and say to you, I've got my cape on and I'm going to save the world and all the young people are going to come on board with me. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
Absolutely.
We have to fundamentally not just place them in the middle of it, but appreciate their journey as they grow. Because as young people, they have a very limited view of what they want. But actually, if we give them the space to dream and to
Yeah.
challenge, they will, and they will provide you with the structure that you need.
Mhm.
And so the assessors are fundamental to this program, which is this is to your original question. This is what makes it different. Young people are part of the the design, they're part of the creation, and they're part of the post-production of this model. And so without them, we couldn't do this. So it's fundamentally important that with my experiences and my team's experiences, that's one part of the jigsaw. But have we spoken to young people? Is this really what they want? And with the advent of digital infrastructure and AI and all the other parameters, I dare say our consultants would absolutely need to rely on young people to kind of get the right questions out
Yeah.
to the right people. So yeah, we really do need them.
No, I like that term, right questions to the right people.
Mm.
It's a great line. So one of the program's aims is to make youth services inclusive, effective, and sustainable. So what does sustainability look like
Mm.
in this particular context?
So interesting question because sustainability means many things to many people. And so if you're a small organization and you are part of this pilot to test whether or not your model is sustainable long term, you've got the opportunity now to test that.
Yeah.
knowing that there's a bit of cash now into the model, into your resourcing of how you provide services for children and young people, that you can build in your possibility with funders and with the local authority that actually this is a good piece of work. The local authority would like to maintain that post this pilot. Now they can have a different discussion with the local authority. You can also conversely look at something and it's not working. And you can now say, we're going to stop doing that after the 6 months because it's clearly not what young people want or require in the way that we're providing that service. So what it will do is give us the opportunity to look at what is required in terms of sustainability, what can and should be stopped because it's not really fulfilling its ambitions, but also equally, can we provide the training and the workforce development to maintain that? So the three things for me that would be really key to the sustainability question is it fit for purpose? Have young people said this is what they want in the way in which they want it? And can we measure the impact of that piece of work? Now, if you can measure the impact of it, the likelihood that you've got good traction, good outcomes, good measurement for it, local authorities, central government, funders will want to put more money into things that are working. So the sustainability is in the reporting, is in the storytelling, and is in the advert of young people speaking freely for themselves to say, yeah, this is working really well. Now, if young people are not turning up for a provision, or young people are finding that provision finishes too early because they've got to get a bus that finishes that, stops at 6 o'clock and they can't get to their provision, then we need to think about how we provide the logistics around that activity. And that becomes a sustainability question. It might be the transport rather than the activity.
Yeah.
It might be where it is as opposed to what it is. And it may be that young people don't want that thing because we didn't ask them the right questions, which is on us as adults, not listening enough. So the sustainability isn't about just the sector, but it's also about how we provide those services.
Okay. Looking ahead, how will you measure whether the local youth transformation program has truly transformed youth services in these pilot areas of the regions?
Yeah, the ambition is there.
Mhm.
Excuse me, the ambition across local authority areas will differ. The fabric in in a central London environment as opposed to a coastal environment will be different. But the key to it will be, has it made a difference to communities? Has it made a difference to young people? And we have to measure that in a way that gives confidence that the data is reflective of young people's realities, reflective of different measures in different areas. So if we look at how crime impacts children and young people, has there been a downtick around that?
Mhm.
If we're thinking about young people and their mental health, have we seen a decline in usage of services because we've been able to pump some of this funding into schools? So there's different measurement tools that we can use, but we've got to measure them and we've got to be accurate with what we're trying to sustain a way forward. And if we don't, then it would have been a waste of time and a waste of money without the evidence that
Mhm.
underpins what our ambitions are for children and young people in a space. So if I look at London, it has a multiple ranges of touch points and things that could go right and go wrong because you're 12 million strong in a city the size of London,
Mhm.
one of the largest cities in Europe, with the most diverse set of communities anywhere outside of New York City.
Mhm.
So when you think about that, then you need to provide services that cater to the multiple groups that's in that space. We take that same question and we go to Cornwall, and it may not reflect that community's reality. It might be slightly different,
Mhm.
but the rurality of the question, the ability to get from point A to point B, needs to be measured.
Yeah.
And that's the question for them. Now, when you go across the UK, those questions will differ in different places, but it will be picked up the same in, say, Norfolk or Suffolk or Essex as it does in Cornwall.
Mhm.
It may be the same question in Doncaster as it is in Peterborough, and New as it is in Liverpool as it is in Manchester. So different areas will be able to look at their statistical neighbours, look at that challenge, and say, that's what we need to measure. The downturn in young people's ability to access services, whether that's about education around environment or whether that's around their mental health and well-being. We have the measurement tools, and now we need to dovetail the project, the pilot, and the spend against those communities that need it the most.
Excellent. So, Chris, before you go,
Mhm.
if there's anybody would like to know more, get involved, how do they connect to this program?
Yeah, the best way to get hold of me, I suppose, is through email. My website is ypftrust.org.uk. You can get hold of me on there. Or my email address is chris@ypftrust.org.uk. Happy to take questions and see if I can field them towards the right people. And if you're from one of the 12 local areas and you believe you've got something that you would like to offer, maybe it hasn't come up so far, we're open to suggestions. We're open to being reflective of what communities are saying. So please feel free to email me, and I will absolutely follow it up.
Great. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.